Stop the cap.
BBC said I should keep it PG. BBC, I wish I had it in me. There's a double meaning if you dig deep.
Never have I ever fucked a black dude. Hey.
I didn't.
BBC? I think this is over, chat.
Remember, she's so.
Yeah.
Yeah. A2000 EST. That's that OCOE.
We are the providers.
Okay, provide then.
Wow.
See, all women are gold diggers. Like, all they care about is money, 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 dude.
I'm a MAGA Christian, and despite the fact that Jesus said to welcome the immigrant, I am so excited to deport them all. Children too. I'm a MAGA Christian, and I hate DEI because I believe in meritocracy, which means that only qualified white men can have jobs. But I love Trump's cabinet picks, even though they're not qualified, because God doesn't call the qualified. He qualifies the called. I'm a MAGA Christian, and if you call me a bigot for just wanting to take away rights from marginalized people, I will scream Christian persecution, and it will work. I'm a MAGA Christian, and despite the fact I've never met a trans person, I know that they're predators, and I have to protect my children. But if you bring up the predators in Trump's cabinet, I will just look at you and I will say, nobody's perfect, and God has forgiven us all. I'm a MAGA Christian, and I believe in the freedom of religion, as long as that religion is my narrow view of Christianity. I'm a MAGA Christian, and I took my kids out of public schools because I was sick of them being indoctrinated, which is why I homeschool my children now, and I teach them the true history, that America was always good, racism no longer exists, and that Democrats are evil, and anyone who doesn't believe exactly like I do is from Satan and is going to burn alive in
I'ma go buy me a gun. And I'ma come back here and set this motherfucker off.
All right, so this is going to be like day 3 on this topic, at least for me, because initially I had to like work through the logic. I got a couple videos coming. I got like 2 FD signifier videos that I did, and then I was addressing some of this other stuff. Had the conversation with the white girl. Posted that video. I think that video is doing like 8,000 views right now, and that's on a non-monetized channel. And then like I had a second conversation with her. I think I got to post that video. And then it like I had like my like post game thought process in terms of my beliefs, what she was saying, and then like putting the bigger picture together. And I made, I think, at least 2 videos doing that. And so this is going to be, day 3 on talking about this discussion. The only reason I'm talking about it is because of this video clip that Tariq did a video on it, and Amazing Lucas did a video on it. And I find it sneakily suspicious that they're basically saying the same talking points that I made in my video about why, some white women prefer black men, which led me down the path, of this conversation, because I had been seeing for a while, these how white guys crash out in the comment section whenever you have these interviews where somebody asks, oh, what do you prefer? And the women say black or chocolate or whatever. And then the whole comment section goes racist. There's, just a bunch of insecure white dudes in the comment section. So apparently this is becoming more of a thing, because that flies in the face of the narrative that a lot of the white nationalists want to run with, and especially when these women are not, like Tariq said, they're not fat. They can't so easily dismiss them and, things like that. They really rage out. It's easy when you got the women that are, unattractive. And I've seen the videos. I love when the fellas of all races, they'll have a woman on there and she'll be, just not attractive. And she'll be up there and be like, I prefer Asians. And then Asian dude comes on. Yeah, this is the representative from the Asian delegation. We humbly decline, her offer. We'll pass her off to the black community. And then the black guy comes on and he's like, yes, this is from the Wakandan delegation, and we also humbly decline. It just goes on, and it goes through all the race. That shit is hilarious to me. That shit is so funny. I wish I could find the clip. I used to have that. That shit was just, I was on the floor watching that shit. Everybody's like, nah, we're good. But anyway, what else was I saying about the whole situation? So anyway, the white guys, they get all butthurt, right? And that flies in the face of their narrative of, we was Vikings, and, white men are superior and all this other stuff. And a lot of it is just, it still blows my mind because, like, when I was growing up, right, let's say like the 90s, I had a distinct image of what a racist white supremacist was. Like, this shit, like when people say racism is taught, it's 100% taught because, to me, a racist was a like late middle-aged white man with a red pickup truck, and he had the baseball hat with the net in the back, and he had a Southern twang, and he was old school. And like my attitude, my belief was, oh man, when this generation dies, then racism will be like over or like severely diminished. And that didn't happen. That didn't happen. Now, you see these white boys crashing out, shooting up schools and all of the type of shit, mad they not getting the pussy on some, black pill incel type of shit, right? Shooting up massage parlors and whatnot. You see that, now, and they're joining, Patriot Front and other white supremacist groups, right? All after, Charlottesville, which was kind of a wake up call in 2013. It was kind of a wake up call in terms of like these people, like they're here. Like, this is the new generation. This is the new wave of white supremacists and white nationalists. And it was crazy to sit there and you're looking at, young, guys that, I mean, if a guy's like, 19, 20 years old, like when all this stuff was happening, like they were born in, what would that have been? The early 90s or something like that, right? They would have been born like in the early 90s or post, 9/11, right? Like, that's crazy to me. Somebody who's born post 9/11 and they got all this hate in their heart. I'm like, bitch, you just got here. Like, you just graduated high school. Like, where did all this shit come from? Right? Then I had to think about it. And I'm like, yeah, they grew up in a world where they only saw Obama up there, and even though Obama's biracial, they see him as a black man. He's married to a black woman. And so people are running around saying, racism. And they're like, how? I only, the majority of my life, has, 8 years, was a black man being president. They don't really wrap their head around the fact that, like, when I was growing up as a little black kid going to school, every single president, before, Ronald Reagan, Bill Clinton, every single president was a fucking white man. The idea that it could be anything else, it wasn't even a possibility. The closest, we got was like Jesse Jackson, right? But like, it wasn't even in the realm of possibility. And then you get Barack Obama goes up there, and then the white people lose their shit like it's the end of the world, and a fucking black hole opened up, somewhere on Earth, and everything's getting sucked into it. Like, what? Like, they can't, like, it's like they can't even fake diversity. They can't even let one through the door and then it goes right back to a white man, which is what happened. That's literally what happened. Now we got two white men after Obama. And there'll probably be a third white man after Obama. But, oh my God, Obama is such a stain on, the American, consciousness or some shit like that. Like all this victim shit. Now, what I will say, some of it I get, some of the frustration I get with young white men, because I would be frustrated as a young white man. Hell, it's just like when we're talking about the gender war and feminism and shit like that, and women are, throwing up, shit that happened in the and there were men in the 1950s, and the woman, she couldn't open up a bank account, and she couldn't do this and do that, and the black man would come home, and then his wife would say, I made you some tuna casserole. He would go, tuna casserole, bitch, and then just start slapping her up, you know what I mean? Like just ass whoopings out of the sky, right? And so, Ike Turner type of shit, right? Just talking about abuses and the black woman, and she was abandoned, and the black woman carried, the whole family on her back, and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, bitch, I wasn't here. I didn't do it. Right? That's how you feel about it. So I can relate, to that aspect. But see, the thing is like with all that, like let's acknowledge and say that went on to whatever degree that went on. Like I'm not a beneficiary of that. I don't get anything out of that. Where a white man, right, a young white man, you may say, hey, I didn't do any of that, but you're a beneficiary to all of those actions. You're a beneficiary to slavery. You're a beneficiary to Jim Crow. You're a beneficiary, right, to the wealth that was extracted, or the work, the labor force that was extracted, the life force that was extracted from black people to build this country, which white people benefit from, which facilitated and created the suburbs, which black people were excluded from, which facilitated the Homestead Act and land grabs. Like you got people in this country that own, tens of thousands of acres, if not hundreds of thousands of acres. You got people in Texas that like you go and, oh yes, we're selling this, this ranch for, 68 million, and it's like 20,000 acres. Like you can't even wrap your head around how much land that is. You know what I mean? It's like fucking the Lion King and shit. Like a white rancher just stands there on a bluff and goes, like the Lion King, everything the light touches is our kingdom. You know what I mean? Like they just stand there and say that shit. Like black people, we don't get the luxury of that. We didn't get 40 acres and a mule. We didn't get Reconstruction, right? I mean, just all of it. Like we didn't get the shit. White men got the benefits of it. Now the fucked up part is you got white men that are like the poor working class white men, because what white people do is they ignore class in their society. They all think that they're all on the same level. They're not. Black people have been trying to point this out. They still don't want to hear it. They think that the white capitalists believe in preserving whiteness. They don't, because capitalism only cares about capital. But they run around talking about the 14 words and this, that, and the third. And 90% of these dudes are dusty. 90% of them don't they're just poor white boys. You know what I mean? And then you get like the ones that come from privilege, like the Pete Hegseths, the Governor DeSantis. You know what I mean? I don't even know if Richard Spencer comes from, a wealthy background, right? But they got this sort of like, freaking, Old Navy khaki wearing, clean cut look. This ain't bullshit that, a Patriot Front is trying to do, right? But at the end of the day, they're the white proletariat. I say it again, time and time again, that the default culture for white people, for Europeans, is feudalism. There were kings, queens, nobles, and peasants. And the vast majority of white Americans, they come from the peasant class. I mean, the white wealthy elite have done a number on the white proletariat, man. They get y'all to believe, y'all believe anything. You guys fall for the okie doke nonstop. I mean, these motherfuckers literally will have like a bag like Santa Claus taking money out of your bank account, and you'll be right about, you got the pitchforks and everything, you'll be right about to fucking tar and feather this motherfucker. And then they'll be like, look, a black guy, you know what I mean? And then y'all will turn around, where? And the next thing you know, that motherfucker gone, took all your money, and you running around focused on the black guy. Like, it's just, it's insane how many times they can do that shit to you over and over and over and over and over again. And again, I'm not saying the black community doesn't have issues and problems and all that other shit, but they're problems that were created by the very system of white supremacy. You got a marginalized group of people that had none of the wealth, none of the access to capital, and you're surprised that there's fucking dysfunction and shit. You know what I mean? And so, like, we're getting our clocks clean, you're getting your clocks clean, but we can't communicate to you what the fuck is really going on because you're so blinded by your fucking racism. Like, it's just, it's so irritating. It's so irritating to talk to these people, you know. But where was I going? I was talking about the whole gender thing, and I got off on a tangent. So this whole like these videos where these white girls are like, I like chocolate, oh, black men, this, that, and the third, right? I don't know where you white guys think that being mean spirited is going to win you women. Like I don't know where you all don't get that part. Like everything to do it. Like it's so crazy. You got these evangelical Christians. What did they say, right? There's no, what is it? Is it there's no hate like Christian love? You know, I mean, just a complete utter contradiction of the Bible and what the teachings of white Jesus and all that. Right. I mean, you have people getting approached, or people approaching the pastors in churches talking about, what was that woke shit that you just preached today? It's the gospel of Jesus Christ. And they're like, no, like, I mean, there's just the racial solipsism and just the lack of compassion, the tribalism with white people. They remind me of the state of Israel. Where like, you see these people. I don't know if you ever watched the guy Hamza. I think he changed his profile name or whatever because I guess he didn't want to have his name up there because now he's an enemy of the state of Israel. But he does these TikToks, with the Israeli, the Israeli just people who like are on there. I think it's like he uses Omegle or something like that. But he posted on TikTok and all these other like Instagram and YouTube and shit like that. And literally, like, it shows these people like, oh, yes, it's okay to kill children and babies. And, they have, like, they're so brainwashed in Israel. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, do you guys, like, get any outside, like, news or second opinions? Like, they clearly don't. They clearly don't. They over there spitting on the Christians when the Christians are trying to like move their cross down the street, right? Since Jerusalem is important to all Abrahamic religions. Is the fucking the Jewish guys are just the Orthodox Jews and shit like that. Now I will say Israel as a state, they don't approve of that, but they don't approve of it because of the optics of it. It's not like they don't approve of it because they don't, believe in the shit. They don't like the optics of it. But what I'm saying, the reason why I'm bringing up Israel is it's like, everybody's looking at Israel like you're the asshole. Everybody sees it. You know what I mean? Like Gaza is not there anymore. Like it's gone. It's completely gone. Right? And it's like when I look at white guys that are running around, with this like, white nationalist shit, like I'm like, everybody's looking at you like you're the asshole, and they don't see it. They're like, no, I have a positive white male identity because I'm preserving the white race, and that's what everybody else does. And first off, everybody else wouldn't be hyper focused on that shit if you didn't run around the world throwing white supremacy all over the place. It's a counter to what you did. There was no Black Lives Matter before there was white supremacy. There was no black people first or pro-blackity black this and that and the third. It was unnecessary. You go to Africa and you talk to most, they don't even identify as black. They're just like, well, I mean, everybody's black here, but like we don't consider ourselves black. We're this tribe and that tribe and this tribe and that tribe, right? They don't even consider themselves. The black is not an identity to them. White people made white, black, Asian, and all that shit an identity. All y'all went around with all your bullshit pseudoscientific phrenology and racial hierarchies, and you did that. And then when people try to counter it by saying, hey, I'm trying to uplift our group because white people have basically codified that we ain't shit or we're lesser beings and everything. Then you cry and then you try to say that them trying to counter your racism and the shit that you said and the damage that you inflicted is the equivalent of what you initially did. Like, this is insane. It's insanity. How you all don't, like, you guys just run around and try to play the victim like you didn't start it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's nuts. And so I say all that to say, you like, these white guys, y'all not getting it. All this shit you doing, the mean-spirited shit, we're going to take this way. We're going to take programs that feed the homeless. We're going to take that away because these people are beneath us and they don't need to exist. And we're going to make sure we're going to change the laws in Florida and try to have, since we're getting rid of the immigrants that basically farm all the food, we're going to try to get children to work in factories. Moo ha 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 ha. Like, this is what y'all do. This is what y'all do. We're going to kick out the Mexicans that fucking that literally harvest all our food, right? And we get them to do it because we're not willing to pay them a livable wage. So get the immigrants coming from other countries that way they can at least send money back to Mexico. And then, the money goes a longer way in Mexico. And so, we'll let them do that. But we really don't want them here, right? We really don't want them here, even though, they've been here, which is why fucking every town in California has a Spanish fucking name. But that's besides the point, right? But then after you kick them out, then you're like, oh shit, what do we do? Oh, I know. Let's bring back child labor laws. Let's go back, or excuse me, let's revoke child labor laws. Let's go back to the Gilded Age. Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's go back to the Gilded Age and start repealing all of the fucking protections that what's so crazy is a different generation of white men fought for. They fought for full medical and dental. They fought for pensions. They fought for, child labor laws. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for the child labor laws, they would have your 12-year-old, the ones that you're saying the 14 words for. They would have them working in a fucking factory, crawling between machines because they're small enough to fit like fucking that child that was on the Wilbur train in the movie Snowpiercer, missing fingers and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like they're I don't know what white men don't see about like the difference between the white family, the white proletariat, the white elites, and then the system of capitalism where the white elites exploit the white family. I don't know what you all don't see about that. You're so busy trying to uphold capitalism when capitalism is fucking over your family, literally. Show me where capitalism has tried to attempt to preserve, the white family. After the World War II when shit was booming, they shared more with the white proletariat, but then they have fought tremendously hard to take all that shit back. And that's exactly what they did. And you let them do it because you're running around, with your xenophobia saying that, the reason why, America's in decline is because all the black people are breathing up all the white people's air. Again, black people have nothing to do with why you're fucking, you don't have a pension. We have nothing to do with why the average home buyer age went from 24 in 1960 to 38 in 2024 or 2025. We have nothing to do with that. We have nothing to do with your stagnant wages, right? We have nothing to do with the inflated price of vehicles. We have nothing to do with your inflated college student loan debt. Although I got to remember I'm talking to the population of white men that didn't go to college, which again is fucking problematic in and of itself in terms of, learning the, critical thinking skills, which is why, most of them probably can't follow me in this goddamn video, which makes me feel like I'm wasting my time. But I digress. But anyway, what I'm saying here is I don't know where, white men don't see what they look like in the mirror. You see these videos, the white girls say, oh, I want chocolate. Look, obviously you need economic stability to facilitate a long-term relationship. But as I said in my previous video, when I was walking through all of this stuff that I haven't posted yet, black men are winning in primarily three different areas. They're winning when it comes to egalitarianism, because most black men grow up in a matriarchy, because the black man has been economically crippled for a long time, and so concessions were already made between black men and black women in the black community. There's a lot of shit that black men just don't care about or don't trip about, unlike you white guys, where you guys want basically the handmaiden's tale. Black men don't operate like that with their partners, even though black feminists will tell you otherwise, because they want what white women want, and white women are seemingly now wanting what black women have long had, right? So, and then the big thing that comes into this picture is, obviously when white women are working and they're gainfully employed, and I'm not saying that white women want to provide, be the provider, in the relationship, and I'm stopping at where black men can initially get in the door. Not saying that they can keep any of these women, right? Because we still have the economic disenfranchisement and all that other shit. But initially, they're definitely able to get in the door, and it seems to be growing more than, a lot of white men. Again, y'all say shit out loud that you shouldn't say out, oh, she's nothing. They ain't shit. Oh, she's a mud shark. She's this, that, and third. Man, you're just throwing away, white women. And, once you do that, they're not going to come back. They are not going to come back. They're going to be like, this, what this white guy said to me one time? They remember that shit. I know, because, again, I hear that shit. Back in the day when I was fucking around with white women, they would point that shit out. And it did not make them want to fuck with you more. The other thing is game. This is something that you all, are not going to be able to acquire, because it's directly tied to poverty, prolonged exposure to poverty. Black men have more game than your average white man because of, they're not having access to resources. They can't rely on, the idea that, that they will be able to provide stability in the same manner as white men assumed that they were able to provide. And now those doors, have closed, because the white capitalists are like, we don't want to pay the type of wages in order to sustain the white middle class. Hell, I don't even know if it's economically feasible anymore when they've outsourced everything overseas, right? So you can get all these goods and products and shit like that, for cheap, but if they were to pay American wages, American workers, those type of wages, it wouldn't, the math ain't mathin', right? So, the game aspect, that is something that black men developed, because black men did not have the ability to say, my father is Grant Wellington III. Okay. And then you have the hypermasculinity, which also comes from, the prolonged exposure to poverty, which is all the stuff that y'all are worried about, the Kimbo slices, the fucking I'm Tyrone and I'm here to fuck your wife, and all the just the Michael B. Jordan and Creed, and all them black muscular guys and shit like that. Again, like I said a long time ago, I was like, y'all bred black people like fucking animals and shit like that. I'm going to take this slave and I'm going to breed her with this slave to get a super slave. Like, what did you think you were going to get? Midgets? What did you think you were going to get? So when it comes to a lot of black men walking around looking like, fucking goddamn Super Saiyans, looking like fucking, Goku and shit like that, y'all did that. Y'all did that. You wanted to make super slaves and shit like that. Now you got a bunch of super mandingos, filling up the freaking, the NFL and the NBA, all over the place. Y'all did that. And then you stupidly thought that some of your women wouldn't find that attractive. And again, a lot of this wasn't created by the white proletariat. This was created by the white elites. I know y'all want to so desperately say each and everything that isn't advantageous to white people was done by the Jews. That's like your scapegoat. Whenever you call out whites for their, their stupidity, their lack of foresight, they're not thinking shit all the way out, you know what I mean? Or something that doesn't benefit the white collective, they'll always say, it was the Jews, it's the Rothschilds, that's who did it, it's Netanyahu, like that always. Always. And I'm not saying that the Jews are blameless. I'm just saying y'all be trying to escape. Y'all try to do the General Grievous shit and, time for the escape pod, and then you just leave it to the Jews. No. This is just pure white elite capitalist Anglo-Saxon greed. That's all it is. That's all it is. Not giving a fuck about, what's going on with the proletariat white man. If they can make $1 off of a nigga by promoting niggas, they gonna do it. That's what they gonna do. To make money off of it. And the white girls will be sitting there going, Michael B. Jordan. They're gonna do it. That's a fact. So you have that aspect. You have, the whole, let's bring up feminism, right? Feminism did not come from the black community. I know what you're all going to say. It was the Jews, Gloria Steinem. It was the Jews. I know what you're all going to say, right? I don't even know if she's Jewish. It's a Jewish sounding name. But, again, who backed, who funded her, who paid for that shit, right? You got the banks. They're like, yeah, bring women into the workforce. That way we can drive down wages, just like they did in, after 1865 when they brought in the Irish immigrants and Italian immigrants and many other immigrants from Europe because, oh shit, we got some freed slaves. Oh, what are we going to do? Pay the slaves now? No, flood the country. Not only are we going to keep it white, right? Because we still want to maintain, white supremacy for the most part. But we're also going to use it to drive down wages. Again, when did most white people come into this country? They came in this country, but in the late 1800s. That's when they had people coming by the boatloads, right? I think it was like from the 1840s to like the 1920s, which is like the largest, migration. Right. But just after World War II, they brought in floods of white people, primarily the Irish. Right. And then these people worked in, coal mining towns. They were paid in script, which is why y'all got to be careful about this Genius Act. OK, you're going to try to turn America into the Tyrell Whalen-Yutani Corporation. Right. And then freaking, next thing you know, you go and you try to make a transaction and you get the Jurassic Park response, when you get up to the teller, you'll have, maybe you were drinking on the job and then you go and, freaking go try to buy some liquor. And then all of a sudden your galactic, cryptocurrency, doesn't work. And you get a notification saying, that you need to go and, speak with HR and that, the hours are only between, 2 p.m. and 2:30 on Fridays. You know what I mean? Like, that's what you're going to be faced with. And y'all don't pay attention. Y'all just, usher all this shit in because your only main focus is, freaking, your basic ass idea of what you think is white supremacy. Which is for you to be a proletariat white man, have a hot, blonde, blue-eyed girlfriend, and then you and her get to fuck all day and make lots of babies, and you just so happen to go to a job, with basic-ass skills, but that job is paying you the type of wages that allowed white men to function in the middle class on some Leave It to Beaver type of shit. That's really that's literally what you want. But, the capitalists, they don't want that. They want something different. They want absolute control. They want to turn this motherfucker into feudal capitalism where they own every aspect of everything that you do. And they commoditize you and everything that you look at, everything that you view, everything that you're interested in, and they can sell that data, to advertisers and whatnot, right? So they're making money while they sleep. You only make money when you go to work. You see? But again, white people created this system, but oh no, the real problem are black people breathing up all the white man's air. Right? They created this whole complex system. Right? So much so that y'all want to run away from it and go live in the fucking Appalachian Mountains and live in the woods and live off the land and be there with your Bible like the white dude that went off to Ruby Ridge and shit. You want to get away from the very civilization that you run around screaming about is better than how everybody else operated in the world before the white man showed up on their shores with his gunboats. Right? You're trying to get away. You're trying to get away from it. You want to move to Alaska, right? Where Alaska is basically giving people universal basic income and handouts. But when you get handouts, you deserve it. But when anybody else gets, assistance or support, they don't deserve it. And then you vote against those policies, and then you sit around and bitch and complain about why can't I make more white babies? At the end of the day, when you want to talk about these white women that are like focused on black men and everything, they're making their own money, right? They're not dependent on you. You clearly have insecurities. You don't have any game. Your personality sucks. You're hyper focused on what you want out of a situation or what you want out of life. You ain't even ask Becky what she wants. You ain't even ask her. You ain't even willing to compromise. You're like, no, to the kitchen with you, bitch. That's y'all. That's you think you're going to win over white women with that shit? You have less to offer because you're a coward and you won't, all this energy that you got, you want to go in the woods and you're punching each other in the woods. Why don't you take that shit to the white elites that are fucking you in the ass? Why don't you take that shit to the corporations, to BlackRock and Vanguard? Why don't you take that shit to them? But nah, you ain't going to take that shit to them. You ain't going to bring them the motherfucking smoke. You ain't going to go out there and protest, when it comes to them. No, but you'll be up there. You'll join Donald Trump's, immigration force or ICE or whatever, to violate and harass, minorities. You'll do that shit thinking that you're doing something, thinking that suddenly when you get rid of all the minorities and you have your little Turner Diaries event, that's going to make these white elites want to fucking pay you more. That all of a sudden they're going to be like, oh, dag nabbit, you got us. You got us. Damn, I guess I need to pay you $45 an hour. Shit. Damn it. Oh, they got us, guys. They got us. Like, you really think that that's what's going to happen? No. That's not what's going to happen. They ain't sharing shit with you. You know what I mean? They're global. You know what I mean? They're going to pick up their shit, move to Dubai, and have their fucking crypto or whatever else and go to other markets because America is dying. Europe is dying. Asia is dying, right? So they're all focused on Africa because, number one, that's where all the natural resources are that they need for all of the fucking technology. Computers need gold and platinum and fucking radion and fucking what's other shit that they fucking need. The computer needs all type of rare earth minerals and shit. Cobalt for the batteries and whatnot. Zinc, copper, aluminum, right? Needs all that. Africa got all that. And they got a younger workforce. That's where the growth is going to be. Right? So the idea is to get Africa to be developed in a way that, as opposed to it just being the extraction environment, they're still going to try to continue with the extraction because they have to. But there's also going to be the aspect of, more growth in Africa because that's going to be, I looked at the birth rates in Nigeria. It's like 6.75. 6.75. The birth rates in fucking, what was it? What was Italy? Like 1.2, 1.1, something like that. It's not even debatable. And then you wonder why all these immigrants are coming into Europe. Yeah, because Europe is dying. You don't have enough of a workforce. You see, and on top of the fact that they don't actually want to pay the local population wages. And again, because you don't believe in handouts and welfare and all the other shit, right? Because you don't want to see go to the minorities, which are literally only like 10% of the population within many of these European countries or less. You're right. You cut your nose off to spite your face. So you won't vote for social programs and what do you want to call it? Resources that support not just families in terms of welfare, but things like free education, free healthcare. I think most European countries have that, right? But also, what's the other thing? Just increased wages overall. They always come through with the capitalism, and it's worse in America. That mindset is worse in America because Americans don't even have half of what Europe has. So the mindset is bad in Europe, but it's even worse in America when it comes to European Americans. But I'm primarily talking about America and this mentality in America. But again, when a white woman is looking at a black man, guess what she sees? Someone who's not trying to take her reproductive rights away. I knew this shit was going to bite white men in the ass. It's too mean. It's too mean-spirited. It's just too mean-spirited, everything that they're trying to do. You know what I mean? We're going to get rid of DEI, right? It made everybody believe that shit was affecting black people. White women are the biggest beneficiaries of that. Right? Because they turned white women into a minority in the 1960s, right? The whole civil rights movement was primarily meant to be about black people because black people were tearing shit up because black people were wholly excluded from the society. And then what white people slickly did, they're like, oh, we're going to bring in other minorities. We're going to make women minorities. We're going to bring in the handicapped people and people in wheelchairs. You know what I mean? Like, it started just creating all these subcategories as opposed to actually just focusing on black people and fixing and correcting, the history and the legacy of slavery. Instead, they tried to muddy the waters. That's how bad they didn't want to give black people shit. They tried to muddy the waters up. And then make it about everybody else. Then next thing you know, you got freaking Jazz Meat from fucking Bangladesh. That motherfucker's pulling up here, talking about I'm an American now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm like, y'all did that. Black people didn't do that. Y'all did that because y'all slipped bullshit like that, in there. Because you're always trying. Again, instead of just dealing with black people. You're always trying to make sure that black people, they don't get nothing because, we want to maintain, the status quo. We want to maintain our position. And the thing is like when it comes to women, women are a funny breed because women can be selfish. Women can be vindictive. Women can be callous, right? Women are very dangerous because women get the benefit of the doubt. And like Doug Tishon said a long time ago, by the time you realize the damage that women have done, it's too late. It's too late. They've already gotten away with it. Like on some hand that rocks the cradle type shit. There's a lot of white women out here that are on some hand that rocks the cradle type of shit. But what was I about to say about white women or just women in general? Women tend to, and I think I can't take this away from them because women are the caregivers and women are the ones that tend to do, obviously the initial part of, infant care and raising children, right? Women have to essentially be built for a lot more compassion than men. Okay. I'll give them that much. Okay. Because, if people want to go with the what's in your nature, a woman has to carry a child, then she has to breastfeed the child, make sure the child is fed, right? So there's a lot of caring that goes on there, right? And so when it comes to women, right, I think men have to be very careful Even though men are supposed to be brave and, stoic and all this other shit, men have to be very careful of not looking like they're callous and unjust and unfair and all that, right? Because especially when it comes to a woman that doesn't have your child and she's trying to assess you on your empathy and your compassion and how you're going to treat your children when you're running around the internet screaming empathy is our weakness, that's not the type of shit that's going to make white panties get wet. Just as a FYI, as a little PSA, right? That's not the type of shit that's going to make white women bust it wide open for you. You might want to tone that rhetoric down. You might want to, go to some soup kitchens or something, right? Actually practice what you preach. You might want to do that. But that's not what white men are showing the world right now. White men are showing the world that, I'm president of the United States and I got 3 baby mamas and I got, I got felonies and I don't practice what I preach, and I say one thing and then I do the opposite, or I make it appear that this is what I'm about, just like how all them Latinos got duped. I am Donald Trump, up there doing the salsa and shit, bitch on the news crying and shit like that, feel betrayed, So I'm just saying the representation, like I've warned about this. I'm like, anytime white men go up there and they do some fucked up shit, Donald Trump is the president. Like, think about it. Like, think about the type of human being that Donald Trump is. Is that the best representation that you have? I'm saying you can say whatever you want about Barack Obama. You know what I mean? But Barack Obama, in terms of his professionalism, no, I'm not here to get into whether, Barack Obama just gave lip service to a lot of things, because he absolutely did. He absolutely did. But all his hope and change and all that stuff, I'm just saying, for a man of color, it was very positive representation, right? Educated man, articulate, all that stuff. You don't see that shit from Trump. And then you got all the other people, just the mean-spirited shit that they do. And then they got all their evil white wives and white women with them. That what is up with the conservative, middle-aged white women and all this plastic surgery face and shit like that, looking like the 1990s TV show, what is it, the Beauty and the Beast, remember that shit with the white guy with the cat face and shit like that? These cat face ass looking white women. What is up with all that shit? They think they look good too. You know what I mean? Just got looking like a freaking Escape LA, type of faces. Like they stole somebody else's face and put it on, like a chimpanzee mauled them and shit. And they had to, get a face transplant. That's what these bitches look like. You know what I mean? What is up with that? And they be evil too. So they some evil, ugly bitches, man. They just be up there just evil and ugly and cat face and shit. What is with that shit? I don't understand that. But even some of the things that the white conservative men are trying to do, like I've seen a couple of them try to, get Trump to pull back a little bit on certain things, like, hey, but we believe in the Constitution. We believe in, they start realizing it's not, there's some philosophical inconsistencies there. Right. But I'm just saying, in terms of y'all getting in the door, you're just doing everything wrong. You know what I mean? Shooting up schools, foaming at the mouth like Richard Spencer, having less to offer than you previously did. And then you're mad at all the minorities as opposed to being mad at the people who look like you, who are at the top of the food chain, right? And making demands with them, right? Then you run around and you got your little Turner Diaries. You're just spewing hatred. You're taking women's rights away. You know what I mean? You're trying to take opportunities away just so that you can be a bigger man. Get rid of DEI for these women and get rid of these feminist policies. And I'm saying, look, I'll be the first one to tell you there's a lot of feminist things that go on that I don't particularly care for, as a black man. There's a lot of things that, like, I'm all for equality, when it comes to the genders. And I think that, feminism, there's a lot of fakeism that goes on when women are trying to keep the privileges of patriarchy, and then sell men this like fake equality, where they're like, they want to have more power and more say so, but then men get stuck with all the same exact responsibilities as they've always had, minus male leadership. I got major problems with that. But again, white men, you all are on the stage with the spotlight shining down on you. You all are on stage, trying to gut shit. Not us. Not us. We say it's our weakness. We're still over here trying to make concessions, right? We're still over here trying to talk through the problem, get women to understand. I know how hopeless of an endeavor that is, but that's what we're doing. You all, on the other hand, are actually executing policy. Actually executing policy. And you're up there in conjunction with all the other stuff that I just previously stated. All that shit is you. See, you're in the driver's seat. This is the beauty. This is the beauty about not being in the driver's seat. You got to take the highs and the lows, the good and the bad. Right? When white men are winning, when white men are kicking ass, right? Oh, yeah, you get all the praise. You get all the, we did this. Yes. And you stand there like Superman with your hands on your hips and your chest out. Oh, yeah. But when you fail or when you fuck up, oh, no, that's going to be on you. That's going to be on you. And see, black people have wised up because, black people being smart. You see, y'all seen the Letitia James? Hey, guys, it's Tish. You seen that shit? Her little career. I'm like, stupid bitch, told you not to fucking go up there and go after Trump. When there's plenty of white people that don't like Trump, let them go after Trump. But nope, she wanted to be a typical black woman and strong and independent and go up there and show her face and go after Trump aggressively. And then he got in, and now she's got legal problems, and now she's online e-begging, for support. Hey guys, it's Tish. Told your stupid ass not to go up there. You know what I mean? And so I'm glad that black people are wising up, just like with this Latino shit, going on with the immigration and everything else like that. All this stuff. Oh, Latinos, they wanted to jump in. Oh, we got black fatigue. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm going to keep my black ass home so that you don't catch this contagious black fatigue that you got going on, So I'm like, nah, let me stay the fuck away. Let me stay the fuck out of it. You know what I mean? And I guarantee you, as this fucking nation implodes over the next, 3.5, 4 years, I guarantee you're going to have white men that at the last minute, they're going to try to throw black men the keys. Do not catch those keys, because they love to give black people the keys to a sinking ship. They did the same thing, when it came to Detroit. You talk about Detroit, you'll have these white men in the comment section. Yeah, it's because the blacks took over. The black people did not take over Detroit until 1980. It didn't become a majority black city until 1980. The auto industry had been left Detroit. It's starting in like 1968. It's starting to move out. They were trying to figure out ways to outsource and shit like that. White men destroyed Detroit. And then when it became a majority black city, and the black city had no, you done took the life's blood out of the city, which was the auto industry. I mean, everything was based off of the auto industry. If you had a diner that was next to the auto, the factory, then your customers were the auto workers, right? If you had a tailor's, if you had a bridal place, if you had a place that did prom dresses, and your dad was an auto worker, and the daughter wanted to go to prom, and she bought the dress from a tailor, and all this other shit. And so there's so much stuff built off that. Laundromats, everything else is all based off of major industry and the auto industry. Once that left, like people sit there like, oh, it's because the blacks took over. When it became a majority city because of white flight, when it became a majority black city, the auto industry had already left. Auto industry was already like freaking, pretty much out the door, when the 80s came around. But I can go and talk to Cap and how he struggled, to get a job, in the 1980s and going into no, actually, I think he was in there in the 90s. You know what I mean? And like he said, the old guard in the auto, they were like, oh man, I'm just glad we got another contract. The old vanguard in the auto industry. They were not thinking about, the future generations. They were taking bailouts. I think in 1992, there was a not a bailout, a buyout. They were buying out employees of their what was it? They're buying out their their pensions. You know what I mean? Like, hey, if you take it now, if you take it early, blah 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? And even Cap lost his ass, at one of the later buyouts and shit like that. Stuff that he had paid into. Didn't have much of a choice. You see? But y'all, like, wait, man, y'all take no accountability. You are in the driver's seat. Okay, yes, you're not, like, this is what the white proletariat does not understand. And I said this in a previous video. You all are allowing white elites to give you their reputation, but not share the actual resources with you. Like, it would be white supremacy if they were like sharing the resources with you. But no, they just give you their fucked up reputation. This is why y'all run around the internet crying like, well, I didn't own any slaves. I didn't do that. I didn't make that decision. Okay, so why are you always licking the doo-doo crack of these motherfuckers? They're not going to share with you. They're not going to reach down and bless you like that fucking, who's that? Leonardo da Vinci picture with the guys reaching out for God's hand and shit. They're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. They've been gassing y'all heads up forever. You've been used like a fucking a damn prostitute, like a silly bitch. You know what I'm saying? And fucking they've been Cat Williams, a pimp named Slickback, yo ass the whole fucking time, and y'all can't see it. Y'all can't see it. And now they affecting you. They going, oh, we're going to Doge this, we cutting this and cutting that, and shit that you all use. Programs that you all need. I need my Medicaid. I need my Medicare. And they talking about cutting it because it's a handout. You see, like, your own rhetoric is going against you. It's just nuts. Motherfuckers just can't. I don't know what it would be like to harbor that much hate in my heart, especially as the dominant group. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're the group that fucked everybody else up and won. And then you come online and try to act like, oh, we're the victims. We're the victims of the shit. And again, the white elites, they not even sharing the spoils of all that rape, pillage, and plunder. They're just leaving you with the white reputation of being monsters. When they're the ones that are sitting there around the oak desk with the big cigar, making the decisions, laughing it up. They're the ones doing all that shit. But yet you got your cape on for them. You know what I mean? Don't talk about white Zaddy. Don't talk about him. You just hate white people. That's what your problem is. How dare you criticize capitalism? Capitalism is the best system that this earth has ever had. And this is a person that literally cannot afford the average home in America, which is $400,000, telling me about how capitalism is the best system we've ever had. Right? And doesn't even have enough money to fucking date, let alone procreate. It's insane. It's insane. Like the sickness. The hope that proletariat white men have that they will one day be a white elite is just, that shit just holds everything together. It just holds everything together. They're just sitting around like, it might could work. It might could work. I just gotta, just hold on a little bit longer. You know what I'm saying? I think you Gen Xers need to have a conversation with these younger guys and tell them about how holding on a little bit longer doesn't really pan out. I think y'all need to start having honest conversation with young white men, but you don't. You let them think that prosperity is right around the corner. I mean, the fact of the matter, they've gutted this bitch. They had a liquidation sale of America right underneath your feet, and you still think it's because black people are breathing up all the white man's air. That's why you can't afford a house. That's why you can't start a family. That's why you're drowning in debt, right? That's why everything's unaffordable. Those goddamn blacks. Oh, just fucking nuts. But yeah, like I said, this shit ain't gonna win, all that I just described, all of the dysfunction, right? All of the shit that white women see very prominent white men doing. And again, like the white woman that I was telling y'all about, like when she brought that shit up, she was like, you talking all this shit talking about white guys, talking all this shit about what a white woman needs to get with and everything. And she's like, you ain't got the same shit to offer that the white elites have to offer. She didn't say it just like that, but I'm saying, she pointed that shit out. Just like the white woman at the beginning of this fucking clip. When they call you to task, you ain't got nowhere to go. All right, then, motherfucker, if you the provider, then provide. Right? You ain't got nowhere to go. That's why I walked away from the, going back and forth, as I spent years doing, talking about the fucking gender war, because I started seeing where this country, I was like, they don't want to pay anybody. Once that hit me, I was like, oh no, we ain't got nothing to talk about. We don't have nothing to talk about. I am not going to sit up in here and talk about what woman needs to submit and get with the program. And you got employers that don't want to pay men enough to support families. Well, that's the end of that conversation. Patriarchy does not work without men being gainfully employed. I don't care how much white Jesus you want to sprinkle on it. It's just math. It's just math. You want to talk about submission. You want to talk about following. And you don't want, young men to be gainfully employed because it costs too much. And you sitting on you could cut, if you got 200 billion, you could cut that in half to 100 billion and still be balling out of control. Hell, just 100 million. I mean, what is the number? What is the number that after that number, there really isn't anything on planet Earth that you can buy? I remember when Andrew Tate was talking about it, he was like, you buy your dream house, you buy your dream car, you buy maybe a watch or two, maybe some suits, you know what I mean? And then, you can, travel the world, go on vacation, whatever you want. And then after that, it's like all fluff. This is why you see the wealthiest people in the world. What do they want after they acquire the money? And they max out, right? They want power, right? They start getting into sick, sadistic shit where they want to manipulate people on chessboards because, that's that they get some sort of sexual rise out of shit like that. You start seeing these parties where the white people are eating, effigy cakes, in the shape of black bodies and shit. They start doing weird shit, eyes wide open type shit, Freemason type shit, all these secret societies, skull and bones type shit. They start doing shit like that. We're going to the island, you know what I mean? Shit like that. They start doing stuff like that. Landing with their private jets parked right next to each other. Right? Start going to the Bohemian Grove, shit like that. The Trilateral Commission, the Bilderberg Group, Illuminati, they start doing all that type of shit. They get tapped on the shoulder. Once you get past a certain point, they tap you on the shoulder and they say, would you like to join our club? And I'm saying white men got their face and fingerprints all over that shit. And people see it on a daily basis. And y'all just let it happen. And then you're mad. You're like, why does everybody act like white men are evil? Because they are. Because they are. Just look around. Look at what they're doing. You know, again, I love when we're not in the room. I love that shit. I love when we're nowhere to be seen. And they try to blame us. It was the black guy. It was the black guys that aren't here. Just like that white woman said. She was like, oh, black men are not going to college. Oh, yeah. Then tell me who's doing all the sexual assaults, at these universities. Yeah. If we ain't there, it ain't us. It's Brad. And then somebody pointed out the fucking, what's the woman's name? Betsy DeVos, right? She just made it. Now I partially agree with this, but I'm saying it's with a caveat, right? Because I do think that there should be more substantial evidence than just simply a woman pointing her witch finger, at a guy. I remember when that Indian guy at I think he was in South Carolina. He was at a bar and the woman, the fucking girl was all on him at the bar, and the tapes at the bar are what saved him. He went back to her place, smashed. You know what I mean? And then the next day she woke up like, oh, I was violated. I wasn't in my right mind. You know what I mean? And then, he got hit up with rape and, they had him expelled and all this other bullshit. And then, they went and found the videotape at the bar. And once the judge saw that, he threw that shit right the fuck out. You know what I mean? But, they were trying to throw him under the jail. And that videotape saved him. You can go and you can find it. So I do think that there needs to be much, more substantiated evidence other than just simply, oh, it happened. Like, and then all of a sudden the student gets thrown out. However, I do find it sus that Miss DeVos, or whatever her name is, Betsy DeVos, made the rule change, there has to be, a due process. Right? You don't want to give due process to immigrants or anybody else. Nobody else gets due process, but these white men that are being accused of sexual assault on campus, we must make sure that they get due process. Right? If black men were the ones that were committing sexual assaults on university campuses all across America, do you honestly think that she would make a change rule to make sure that those sexually accosting black men were getting due process? I think not. But because it's Brad, right? Because it's Brad who's being Mr. Touchy-feely. Oh, we got to change these goddamn rules. We must preserve white men. But yet let white men tell it, oh no, we're the most victimized population in America. We're the most violated and accosted in America. Someone shed a tear. We must stop the white hate. Stop white hate. Fuck out of here. But like I said, that shit, the shit that y'all doing, the crying, the crashing out, the shooting up churches, shooting up malls, shooting up movie theaters, shooting up freaking supermarkets, right? Shooting up gyms full of nothing but, women at the gym, right? Like you see that shit? They go to these all-female gyms and then go shoot the place up because they can't get any pussy. I think that started back in like the 80s. I think there was a guy, I think it was like 1987. He went into a gym and then shot it up, full of women because he was like the OG incel. Go read actually I'm not gonna put that on him because he's half Asian, which is Elliot Rodgers. But Elliot Rodgers was a white identified a hafu. You know what I mean? So, you go read his My Twisted World, when he was bitching about the black guy getting a blonde white woman over him. And he was like, and I mean, just look at me. I'm magnificent. And how? I mean, I'm half white. I was reading that shit the other day. I was like, this is insane. This is insane to sit there and think like that. So again, the everything that they want to believe from white supremacy, doesn't align with the validation that black men apparently get from white girl thirst. You know, and to me, like, it's not that, you know, that shit is so superficial and bullshit to me. But in any event, you see how fragile white dudes are, you know, when it comes to that shit. And like the white girl, you know, said, like, man, she'll shoot their shit down so fast because all she got to do is bring up Asian women. You know what I mean? I could go on YouTube right now and look at nothing but white men in Bangkok walking down the street in the fucking red light district with their little Asian girl in their arm. That's all you see. But yet, that's okay. But let a white girl have a black dude on her arm. Oh my God, the world is collapsing. And I bet you, I put money on it, that many of these white nationalists, white supremacists and whatnot, you know, let them hit middle age, let their pot belly show, let them get some gray hairs. Them motherfuckers gonna be in Thailand all day, every day. You know, making videos talking about, man, Thailand's where it's at. Thailand's where it's at. You guys need to come to Thailand. Passport bros all day, guys. They're going to be out there in Thailand. You know? I left America a long time ago. You know, these white women, all they want is black peen. So, you know, I decided to go over here and get some Asian peen. I didn't even mean to say Asian peen, but now that I'm thinking about it, yeah, lady boys, yeah, you went over here to get some Asian peen. You know, so, oh, man. But, yeah, man, y'all need to clean it up. It's not my job, not my responsibility. Y'all need to clean it up. You know, technically speaking, I shouldn't be saying anything, but some of y'all really need to get it. Y'all really need to understand instead of just sitting there being butt mad. I'm like, look at what you're doing. You act like... Again, like that white woman did in that clip. You know, a purpose, Kyle, a purpose. I mean, damn. You know, like, y'all don't really understand what you freaking sound like. You gotta understand that shit. Up there just making yourselves look bad. I'm like, there's certain things. I'm like, I wouldn't be saying that too loudly. But, you know, anyway, that's all I got for y'all. That's my video. SWP out. Don't forget to comment, share, like, and subscribe.
On the scene, diamond blingy whole screen. Check a boy, Louis V. I'm so fresh and so clean. Stuff them bands in my jeans. Slap them 30s in them things. Pull the trigger, let it sing. Then go smoke a Russian cream.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Hello?
Where you at?
Where we at? Oh, you want to know where I'm at? We out.